In the year 3124, the stars no longer shined with wonder. They hung in the sky like dying embers, scattered across a galaxy that was slowly falling apart. Most planets were dead. The ones that weren't were too toxic or too broken to live on. What was left of humanity clung to space stations, giant metal cities floating in the cold dark. Jack Voss lived on Station Delta 9, a rusting station on the edge of the Andrus galaxy. It used to be a trade hub, full of energy and people. Now it groaned with age. Power flickered in the hallways. Food was rationed. Children grew up never knowing the feeling of wind or seeing real water. Jack worked as a data scavenger. His job was simple: search through old archives, lost satellites, and forgotten storage cores. He looked for blueprints, tech specs, anything that could still be useful. It wasn't glamorous work, but it kept him alive and gave him something to do besides sit and wait for everything to fall apart. He liked the silence. He liked working alone. But sometimes, when the power dimmed and the station creaked, Jack felt a quiet ache deep in his chest. He had no family left. His parents died when a cooling core failed 5 years ago. The officials said it was an accident. Jack knew better. Maintenance had been ignored for months. People didn't care anymore. Hope was dying. Some said it was already dead. But Jack wasn't sure. He didn't believe in miracles, but he believed in possibilities. That belief grew stronger the day he found the file. It was deep in a corrupted archive, buried beneath layers of old defense logs and system backups. Jack was half asleep, bored from hours of scanning, when the screen flashed. File found. E_R_T_H_0001.cvx. He blinked. The letters didn't make sense at first. He ran a quick restore script. The screen filled with static. Then, slowly, a map appeared. Stars, lines, and coordinates. It was old, very old. Too clean to be fake. At the bottom was a word he hadn't seen outside of bedtime stories. Earth. Jack stared at the screen. Earth. The origin world. The blue planet. A place with skies, trees, oceans, life. A place where humans were born. But Earth was just a legend. Everyone said so. Historians claimed it was destroyed long ago. Scientists said the location was lost forever. It was too far, too risky. Nobody really believed it existed anymore. Except Jack. His heart beat faster. He copied the file and replayed the coordinates over and over. The system confirmed the star positions matched a real sector, far beyond the known charts. A place no one dared to go. Jack leaned back in his chair. For the first time in years, he felt something warm rise inside him. Hope. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet. He knew what would happen if he did. The Galactic Control Council, the ruling force over the remaining stations, would shut him down. They didn't allow talk of Earth. They called it dangerous hope. People who believed in it were labeled as dreamers or threats. But Jack didn't care. That night, he sat in the observation deck. Through the dusty glass, he saw the stars. They were quiet, distant, cold. But now, they felt like a path. A trail leading somewhere real. Somewhere waiting. He whispered the word to himself, like a secret prayer. Earth. The lights dimmed. The engines hummed low. But Jack didn't move. Tomorrow, everything would change. Station Delta 9 slept in silence, its lights flickering like candles ready to go out. But Jack Voss didn't sleep. He sat at the edge of his bunk, staring at the portable data pad in his hands. On the screen, the star map glowed softly, the same one he found the day before. The word Earth burned into his mind. He had copied the file to a secure drive, hidden it behind layers of encrypted code. If someone found out what he had, they would take it, erase it, maybe even erase him too. Because Earth wasn't just forgotten, it was forbidden. Far above Jack's quarters, in the upper levels of Station Delta 9, another screen lit up. Inside the command center, Commander Reelan Creel leaned over a console. He was a tall, sharp-eyed man, with a voice that could freeze a room. His uniform was perfect, his gray hair combed straight back, his face cold and unreadable. He watched as lines of code scrolled across the screen. One of his officers had flagged a strange access in the archive servers. An unauthorized scan. Old Earth files. Protected files. Who touched it? Creel asked. Worker ID 274J Jack Voss, the officer replied. Creel stared at the name. He had heard of Voss. Quiet. Kept to himself. A good scavenger. No history of trouble. That had just changed. Creel didn't believe in Earth. He once did, years ago. But belief was dangerous. It gave people wild ideas. Ideas led to rebellion. and rebellion led to collapse. The last time Earth fever spread through the stations, it ended with riots, broken airlocks, and a dozen deaths. After that, Creel made Earth a myth again. Quietly. Efficiently. He wouldn't let it rise again, not even as a whisper. Flag him. Lock down his station access, Creel ordered. And put a tracker on his ship. If he moves, I want to know. Down below, Jack was already moving. He packed light, just the essentials. Some ration packs, a backup drive, a water filter, a knife. His ship, an old scout-class shuttle named Serenity, sat docked in the outer bay. It was slow, but reliable. Jack had been fixing it up for years, just in case. He never knew what he was preparing for until now. He moved quietly through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors. He kept his head down, hood up. The guards barely looked his way. He wasn't a threat in their eyes. Just a worker. Just part of the background. At the docking bay, his heart pounded. He entered his ship, sealed the hatch, and slid into the pilot's seat. The control screen lit up. Tracking beacon detected. He cursed under his breath. They were already onto him. Jack opened the side panel, reached into the wiring, and pulled out the tracker chip. He crushed it under his boot, then rerouted the power through an old bypass circuit. The engines hummed to life. "Come on, girl," he whispered to the ship. "One last run." He fed the coordinates into the NAV system. The route was long across decayed star sectors, past dangerous zones abandoned after the wars. No stations. No refueling stops. If anything went wrong, he'd drift forever. But he didn't care. He lifted off. As Serenity left the bay, alarms blared through the station. "Unauthorized launch," a voice announced. "Vessel 274J. Pursue and detain." Inside the command center, Creel clenched his jaw. "Voss is running," the officer said. Creel nodded. "Then chase him. And make sure he doesn't get far." Jack's ship vanished into the void. Behind him, the galaxy burned slowly, like a fire that no one had tried to put out. Ahead of him, in the darkness, was a dream. Not a fantasy. Not a myth. A home. The ship Serenity sailed quietly through space, far from the reaches of the Andrus galaxy's core. Stars hung like frozen sparks outside the window. Behind Jack Voss was the crumbling life he had left behind. Ahead of him was the unknown, dark space no one traveled anymore. He had been flying for 3 days. The journey was harder than he expected. The ship's engine was old. It overheated easily. The water filter failed once. He fixed it with wire and patience. Sleep came in short bursts. Food was running low. He didn't complain. He had a destination. Earth. Every few hours, Jack checked the coordinates. They were still locked in. The course passed through 3 abandoned sectors. These places were once full of traffic, cargo ships, research vessels, trade convoys. Now, they were empty. Or so he thought. On the 4th day, just as Serenity passed into the Krynix drift, Jack's ship jolted. Warning. Proximity alert. Jack sat up fast. Something large was approaching from behind. He looked at the radar. 3 signals. Small crafts, fast, closing in. Pirates. They didn't follow laws. They didn't care about Earth, hope, or anything else. They only wanted scrap, fuel, and blood. Jack accelerated, pushing the engines too hard. A red light blinked on the dash. He shut off the heating system to keep the engines alive. The pirate ships followed like wolves. Their messages crackled through the comms. "Power down, Scrapman. Hand over the ship." Jack didn't reply. He banked hard into an asteroid field, dense rocks left from a shattered moon. Dangerous, but better than dying slow. The pirates hesitated. One tried to follow. A rock caught its wing and spun it off course. The other 2 backed off. Jack maneuvered through the field with steady hands. He knew old starfields better than most. Years of scanning forgotten zones had trained him for this. After an hour of silent flight through the jagged maze, he reached the other side. Silence returned. Serenity limped forward. The engines were damaged. He needed repairs. Fuel too. He checked the NAV system for nearby derelicts, old ships, or stations he could scavenge. A signal blinked faintly. Station fragment, Class 7, status, minimal life support. It was a broken vessel orbiting a dead planet. Not ideal, but it was something. Jack approached carefully. The station was barely holding together, its body twisted from an old battle. Air leaked from one side, lights flickered from another. He docked with the working bay door and stepped inside, wearing his oxygen mask. The air was thin and cold. Inside, everything was quiet. Wires hung like vines. Rust and darkness coated every surface. Jack moved slowly, checking old supply cabinets. He found a fuel cell, some dried ration bars, and, surprisingly, a working power coil. Just what his ship needed. Then he heard a sound. A footstep. He spun around, flashlight raised. Someone was there. A woman stood near the corner, wearing a pilot's jacket and carrying a plasma cutter. Her face was tired, her eyes sharp. "Who are you?" she asked, voice firm. Jack raised his hands. "Not a pirate. Just passing through." She watched him carefully. "No one passes through here." Jack lowered his flashlight. "I'm looking for something." She raised an eyebrow. "What?" He paused. "Earth." She laughed once, dry and bitter. "You too, huh?" Her name was Kayla. She had been a pilot once. Years ago, she and a small crew followed rumors of Earth. They searched, traveled far, but found nothing. Most of her crew died from bad systems or pirate attacks. She had stayed behind when hope ran out. Jack told her about the file he found. The coordinates. The star map. She listened in silence. When he was done, she didn't laugh again. She just asked, "Is your ship still flying?" "Barely," Jack said. "Then let's go," she said, without hesitation. "If Earth is out there, I want to see it." Together, they returned to Serenity. Jack made the repairs. Kayla checked the NAV systems and added her own backup routes. They had fuel, a working engine, and a new team of 2. The galaxy had left them behind. But they weren't done yet. As they left the ghost station behind, Jack looked once more at the stars. Somewhere beyond them was a lost world. He could feel it. Far across the void, inside the heart of Galactic Control, Commander Reelan Creel stood before a wall of monitors. Each screen showed a sector of the galaxy. Patrol routes. Ship movements. Open broadcasts. Quiet corners. But Creel's eyes were fixed on one blinking dot, Jack Voss. The scout ship Serenity had reappeared. After days of silence, it registered a brief signal from the edge of the Krynex drift. Creel's officers ran the data twice. It was real. "He survived the drift?" the officer asked, surprised. Creel didn't answer. His face remained cold, unreadable. He remembered that region well. He'd flown through it once in his younger years, back when he still believed the stars meant something more than duty. Back when Earth wasn't just a banned word on a file. Creel had once dreamed of Earth too. He had studied the stories, collected fragments of songs and tales about oceans and open skies. He had even followed a rumor with his own team, decades ago. It ended in a dead zone with nothing but wreckage. Half his crew died in a radiation storm. The rest gave up. Creel buried the dream that day and rose through the ranks. He chose order over hope because hope led to chaos. People who chased Earth wasted time, risked lives, and weakened the fragile grip humanity had on survival. Earth was a myth, and myths were dangerous. Now Jack Voss threatened to awaken that myth again. Creel turned to his officer. "Send out a hunter. Fastest ship we have. Quiet. No signals. Find him before he reaches the next zone." Meanwhile, Serenity drifted past Sector 12X, silent but alive. Jack Voss sat in the cockpit, running a systems check. The repairs were holding. Fuel was low, but enough to get them to the edge of the final stretch. Kayla was resting in the back, wrapped in a thermal blanket, eyes closed but not asleep. She hadn't spoken much since they left the ghost station. But Jack understood. She had seen too much loss to believe in words alone. He didn't try to convince her. He let the silence speak. At one point, Kayla walked to the cockpit and looked out at the stars. "Do you really believe Earth is still out there?" she asked. Jack didn't look away from the controls. "I have to. If I stop believing, I'm just surviving. And I don't want to just survive anymore." She nodded, slowly. "Neither do I." The moment passed, and they both went back to their tasks. But they weren't alone. Far behind them, a sleek black ship, codenamed Shadowlance, glided silently through space. Built for speed and stealth, it carried only one mission: stop Jack Voss. Inside, the pilot locked onto Serenity's last known path and activated the pursuit protocol. Back on Serenity, Jack picked up something strange on the scanner. A soft blip. Faint. Almost hidden. Like a ghost. Kayla frowned. "What is that?" Jack narrowed his eyes. "Someone's tailing us." He checked for signals, none. Whoever it was, they were good. They had two options: go dark and hide, or outrun them to the next sector. Jack chose both. He powered down non-essential systems, shut off lights, and drifted toward a dense nebula cloud nearby. Its thick gases would block scanners for a short time. The downside, it could also mess with their own systems. They entered the nebula. The sky outside turned into a swirling mist of blue and green. The ship creaked under the pressure of the charged particles. Kayla held onto the rail. If they follow us in, we won't see them until it's too late. I know, Jack said. Minutes passed like hours. The ship floated, silent. Shadows moved in the clouds. Static buzzed in the comms. But the blip was gone. Jack let out a breath. They were clear for now. He pushed the engines gently, steering the ship out the far side of the nebula. When they emerged, the stars returned. Ahead of them was the final path. The coordinates were locked. One more jump. One more chance. Behind them, hidden in the nebula, the shadow lance circled once, then retreated. Its pilot had seen enough. He sent a message back to Galactic Control. Target approaching destination. Do you wish to intercept? Creel stared at the message. His hand hovered over the response panel. He could end this now. Send in the order. Destroy the ship. Stop the myth once and for all. But something made him pause. A memory. A smell of old paper. A voice from a long time ago telling him about rivers and forests. A child's voice, his own. He didn't reply. Aboard Serenity, Jack didn't know he had been spared. He only knew one thing. They were close. He looked over at Kayla. She was watching the stars again, a little closer this time, a little more awake. Almost there, he said quietly. She nodded. Let's find out if the stories are true. In the dark space ahead, a faint blue light flickered, soft, round, and alive. It was waiting. The final stretch was quiet. Too quiet. Jack Voss sat in the pilot's seat of Serenity, staring at the navigation screen. Only one jump remained. One last push through the void, and if the coordinates were right, it would lead them straight to Earth. But nothing was guaranteed. Beside him, Kayla tightened her seatbelt and checked the fuel levels again. Still enough for one jump, she said. Jack nodded. He had already checked twice. Everything was holding, but barely. The ship had taken damage through the drift, and the nebula had pushed the systems to their edge. This jump would be their last, no matter what they found on the other side. Kayla looked over at him. You sure about this? No, Jack said. But I'm going anyway. She smiled faintly. Good answer. He entered the coordinates. The system buzzed and blinked, ancient code guiding them through uncharted space. He took one last breath, then pulled the jump lever. Space folded. The stars bent and twisted. Light rushed past the windows like rivers of energy. The engines roared with power they were never built to handle. The ship shook hard. Then silence. The screen flashed white. When it cleared, they were in a completely new sector. No records. No name. No satellite markers. Just stars. And something else. Straight ahead, floating like a forgotten jewel, was a blue planet. It turned slowly in the dark, wrapped in white clouds and surrounded by the glow of a healthy atmosphere. Water shimmered in the oceans. Mountains stretched across green lands. Storms moved gently across continents. It was beautiful and real. Jack's hands trembled slightly. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Is that, Kayla began, but her voice faded. Jack confirmed the readings. Oxygen, gravity, temperature, all matched old records. It's Earth, he said, barely above a whisper. The planet was alive. Kayla covered her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. They had found it. But the silence didn't last long. A warning light blinked on the dash, proximity alert. A patrol ship had followed them. Jack cursed. We weren't alone. He turned the ship, putting it between Earth and the incoming threat. The signal was coded in black, Galactic Control. Kayla stared at the radar. That's one of Creel's hunters. The comms crackled. Jack Voss. Shut down your engines. You are in restricted space. Jack didn't answer. Kayla looked at him. We can't outrun them. Not in this condition. He knew she was right. Their ship wouldn't survive a fight. But they hadn't come this far to turn around. He reached for the emergency broadcast switch. The same one used in distress calls, but it could also be used to send a message wide across all open stations, channels, and frequencies. Are you sure? Kayla asked. Jack nodded. If I'm going down, everyone's going to know what I found. He pressed the switch. The system blinked. A clear message began to broadcast across every corner of the Andrus galaxy. This is Jack Voss. I found Earth. It's real. It's alive. Coordinates are attached to this signal. We don't have to live in metal cages anymore. We don't have to survive in the dark. There's a future here. Come and see for yourself. He sent images, read-time scans of the planet, air samples, ocean views, mountain ranges, and the map that led them here. Back at Galactic Control, Commander Creel stood frozen, watching the message play across the main screen. Officers shouted, confused, trying to stop the signal, but it was too late. The broadcast was live. People across dozens of stations were already receiving it. Some would believe, some would not. But the truth was now out. Creel stared at the blue planet. He saw not a threat, but a promise. For years, he had shut the door to hope. Now, it had broken through. He walked to the console and typed a command. Stand down. The hunter ship received the message. It powered down its weapons and pulled away. On Serenity, Jack saw the patrol ship drift backward and vanish into deep space. Kayla let out a slow breath. That was close. Jack smiled faintly. We're still here. They began their descent toward the planet. The atmosphere burned gently around the ship, painting the windows with firelight. The systems held. The ship shook, then leveled out. Clouds parted. Blue skies opened above them. Below, green forests, wide rivers, and snow-capped peaks spread as far as the eye could see. It didn't feel like a dream anymore. It felt like coming home. The clouds split open as Serenity descended. Bright blue sky stretched far in every direction. For Jack Voss, it didn't look like a planet, it looked like freedom. After a lifetime surrounded by cold metal and recycled air, the sight of open space, green land, and rolling oceans felt unreal. But it wasn't a dream. This was Earth. The ship's landing gears groaned as it touched down in a wide, grassy field at the edge of a forest. The engines hissed and cooled. Birds flew overhead. Real birds, not drones. Jack stared through the glass in silence. His eyes took in the bright sun, the waving trees, the shadows cast by clouds. He had never seen anything like it. Kayla sat beside him, stunned. She didn't speak. She just leaned forward, placing her hand gently against the window, as if trying to touch the world beyond. Jack stood and moved to the airlock. He pressed the control panel. The hatch opened with a long hiss. Fresh air rushed in. It smelled of earth, rain, life. Jack stepped out slowly. His boots touched real ground, dirt, grass, roots. He crouched and ran his fingers through the soil. It was soft and warm. He looked up at the sky. No ceiling. No walls. Just endless blue. Kayla followed behind him. She took one step, then another, then dropped to her knees. She pulled off her gloves and pressed her hands flat against the grass. She laughed. It was the kind of laugh that came from deep inside, the kind people hadn't used in a long time. They walked together across the field toward the trees. Birds sang in the branches. Leaves rustled in the breeze. A small stream trickled nearby. The air was rich with sound, natural sound, not the hum of generators or the beep of machines. Kayla stopped beside the water. She looked at Jack. You did it, she said softly. No, Jack said. We did. They sat near the stream, drank from it, and felt the cold, clean water flow through their hands. It was the first time in their lives they had tasted something untouched by a machine. Back in orbit, their broadcasts spread like fire. Across the galaxy, on stations filled with stale air and dying lights, people gathered around screens. They saw Jack's message. They saw Earth. They saw hope. Many didn't believe it at first. Some thought it was a trick. Others wept just watching it. And then the ships started moving. One by one, small crafts broke away from the old stations. Groups of explorers, refugees, dreamers, all chasing the same light Jack had followed. For the first time in generations, people had somewhere to go. Jack and Kayla stayed on Earth, setting up a small camp near the stream. They collected samples, scanned the area, recorded everything. The planet was alive, untouched for centuries, healing from whatever had driven humans away long ago. They didn't try to claim it. They didn't build fences or mark territory. They only watched, listened, and waited. And soon, the sky changed again. On the fifth day, they saw the first ship arrive, a small vessel with a red stripe and a long antenna. It landed near the clearing. A family stepped out, eyes wide, speechless, tears in their eyes. Jack greeted them with a smile. Welcome home, he said. Over the next weeks, more ships came. People brought tools, books, memories, and seeds. They built shelters, shared stories, and walked barefoot in the soil. Earth had become more than a myth. It was now the beginning of something new. One evening, Jack stood on a hill as the sun set. He looked out across the valley where lights flickered from new camps. Children ran through the grass. Fires burned for warmth, not survival. Laughter rose into the air. Kayla joined him. Still think it was just a possibility? Jack shook his head slowly. No, it was a promise. And we kept it. They stood together in silence, watching the stars begin to glow in the darkening sky. But this time, the stars didn't feel lonely. They felt close, like old friends watching from above. The galaxy hadn't ended. It had only led them home.